It was Tuesday, 10:14 a.m. My phone buzzed with a simple text. "Can you help me out real quick?" And I typed back, "Of course, anytime." Except it wasn't any time. I was exhausted, behind on a deadline. My coffee had gone cold 3 times. And I felt this familiar tightness in my chest, the kind that whispers, "Here we go again." And it hit me. I wasn't saying yes because I wanted to. I was saying yes because I was afraid of what would happen if I said no, afraid of being seen as selfish, difficult, disappointing. Here's the raw truth. Most of us weren't taught how to say no. We were taught how to earn love through being helpful, being agreeable, being available. And every time we say yes when we mean no, we chip away at our own trust, not just with others, but with ourselves. In a study I did on boundaries and resentment, one thing kept showing up. People who struggle to say no often carry the heaviest emotional burdens silently. So today we're going to unpack this, not just how to say no, but how to say it without guilt, without losing yourself, and without losing the people who matter most. Because here's what I know for sure. Saying no doesn't make you unkind. It makes you honest. And honesty is the foundation of every real connection. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. That sentence changed my life. Because for so long, I thought boundaries were about keeping people out. I thought they were rigid, defensive, something you throw up when you're tired of being pushed around. What I didn't realize is that real boundaries aren't walls. They're the framework that holds love, respect, and connection in place. I've seen this again and again in my research, especially in interviews with people who struggle to say no. The pattern is almost always the same. We say yes to keep the peace, to be liked, to avoid disappointing someone, and then we walk away feeling a little smaller, a little more disconnected from ourselves. What's wild is that most of us don't even realize we're doing it. We think we're being kind, we think we're being generous, but here's the tough truth. Generosity without boundaries isn't generosity, it's resentment waiting to happen. When I started to truly understand boundaries, it felt uncomfortable at first. Because when you're used to overextending yourself for others, setting a boundary can feel like you're being mean, like you're pulling away. But here's what I learned. If I have to abandon myself in order to keep you close, that's not love, that's fear. And fear makes really bad relationship decisions. I remember someone I was working with who told me, "I can't say no to my sister, she'll think I don't care." So I asked, "But do you care?" And she said, "Of course I do. That's why I keep helping her even when it's too much." But the thing is, care without capacity isn't sustainable. That version of love ends up eroding trust, not building it. Because every time we say yes when we mean no, a little part of us pulls back. And that quiet withdrawal creates emotional distance, not because we're trying to punish the other person, but because we're trying to protect ourselves. And we're doing it silently without clarity or honesty. That's what makes boundaries so powerful. They don't just protect me, they protect us. When I say I want to help, but I can't do that today, what I'm really saying is I value our relationship enough to be honest with you, even when it's hard. That's the core of this work. It's not about becoming tougher or colder or more detached. It's about becoming more honest, more present, and more respectful to ourselves and to others. Healthy boundaries allow us to stay in the relationship without slowly disappearing from it. And I'll tell you something I've learned the hard way. People who truly love you, who respect you, will adjust. They may be surprised at first, they may even push back a little, but they'll adapt because the relationship will feel more real, not less. We can't connect from a place of resentment. We can't sustain love when we're chronically overwhelmed, exhausted, or silently bitter. Boundaries are the way we stay generous without becoming depleted. When I learned to say, this is what I can offer and this is what I can't, I started showing up more fully, not less, because I was no longer giving out of fear or guilt, but from a place of clarity. And clarity is a gift to everyone involved. So when we talk about saying no without guilt, this is where it starts, not with shutting people out, but with finally letting ourselves in. Saying no is an act of self-respect, not rejection. I remember a time when saying no felt like I was rejecting someone. It didn't matter if it was a work request, a social obligation, or even a simple favor. Every time I said no, there was this deep, gnawing fear that I was somehow letting the other person down, that I was disappointing them, that I was making them feel unimportant, unwanted, or unloved. It was this belief that saying no would break the connection we had, and I feared that more than anything. But here's the thing, after years of research, conversations, and lots of personal reflection, I've learned that saying no isn't rejection. It's actually an affirmation of what matters most to you and to the people you care about. When you say no, you're not telling someone they aren't worthy. You're telling them and yourself that your time, your energy, and your needs matter too. And here's the kicker. When you don't honor your own needs, you eventually reach a breaking point where your ability to care for others diminishes. You can only pour from an empty cup for so long before you start to lose yourself in the process. I once heard someone say, you can't pour from an empty cup, but most of us keep trying. I lived that way for years, overcommitting, overextending, overgiving, until I was so burnt out that I didn't recognize myself anymore. And the worst part, I thought I was doing it out of love. But love, in that case, wasn't sustainable. It was conditional, based on my fear of letting people down. The truth is, people who truly love and respect you will understand when you say no. It may not always feel comfortable at first, but that's because we're not used to asserting our boundaries. We've been conditioned to please, to appease, to make sure everyone else's needs are met before our own. But here's the thing I've learned through my research and life experiences. When you say no, you're actually teaching people how to treat you. You're setting a standard for what's acceptable and what's not, for both yourself and for them. It's a message that says, I matter, my well-being matters, my time matters. And when you do that, you start to make space for relationships that are truly reciprocal, where both people's needs are honored, not just one person's. There's a profound truth in this. I've had to learn the hard way that saying yes to everyone else's demands without regard for my own limits was a form of self-betrayal. And that kind of betrayal erodes trust, not just with others, but with myself. I wasn't being honest. I wasn't honoring my values or my time. I was showing up for everyone else, but not for myself. In fact, research shows that people who struggle with saying no often carry around a lot of emotional baggage that doesn't belong to them. They carry other people's expectations, other people's needs, and other people's disappointments. But here's the key. You don't have to carry it all. You don't have to be everything to everyone. You're allowed to be human. You're allowed to have limits. And what I've discovered through years of research and personal growth is that self-respect isn't about being rigid or detached. It's about being honest and true to yourself. It's about recognizing that your worth isn't tied to how much you can give, how much you can do, or how much you can sacrifice for others. Your worth is innate, it's not up for negotiation, and it doesn't need to be earned. So the next time you feel that pull to say yes, even when your heart is telling you no, I encourage you to pause and ask yourself, what would saying yes cost me? What would it cost the relationship? And what would it cost me in terms of my own integrity and self-respect? If the answer doesn't align with your values, then saying no is actually the most respectful thing you can do for yourself and for the other person. Saying no is not about rejecting someone else. It's about rejecting the belief that your worth is measured by your ability to say yes to everything. It's about honoring your needs and maintaining your boundaries so that when you do say yes, it's real, it's authentic, and it's coming from a place of true generosity, not fear or obligation. And that's the kind of love and connection that truly lasts. The guilt you feel isn't truth, it's conditioning. If you're anything like I used to be, guilt is a familiar, ever-present companion. And not just any guilt, it's that deep, gnawing feeling that rises up when you even think about saying no. The moment you feel the weight of someone else's expectation, guilt floods in like a tidal wave, pulling you under and making you question everything. It whispers, if you say no, they won't like you. They'll be disappointed. You're not being a good person. It's a voice that has been trained in us from a very early age, and for many of us, it's a hard one to silence. I've spent a lot of time unpacking the roots of this guilt, why it's so powerful and why it feels so paralyzing. And here's what I've learned through years of research and countless conversations with people. This guilt is not truth, it's conditioning. It's the product of a lifetime of messages telling us that our worth is tied to how much we can give, how available we are to others, and how well we can meet every single need placed on us. But here's the reality. Your worth is not measured by how much you can do for others. It's inherent, it's in your humanity, and it doesn't fluctuate based on whether you can say yes to every request that comes your way. This guilt is so deeply ingrained because it comes from a place of wanting to be liked, to be accepted, to belong. We've been taught that being generous, being available, and being helpful are the hallmarks of being a good person. And in many ways, they are. But only when they're done from a place of choice, not obligation. Only when they're done with the awareness that saying yes doesn't mean you're sacrificing yourself in the process. I want to be really clear here. Guilt is not a sign that you've done something wrong. Guilt is an emotional reaction to the idea of disappointing someone, but it doesn't mean the disappointment is justified. Let me say that again. Guilt doesn't equal wrongdoing, and yet we often wear that guilt as a badge of honor. We think it's a reflection of our goodness or our compassion, but in reality, it's just a signal that we've internalized a harmful belief, that our value is tied to our ability to say yes. This belief is often rooted in early childhood experiences. Think back to the way many of us were raised, the messages we received about being a good child, a good friend, a good partner. We were taught to be nice, to be accommodating, to put others' needs before our own. These messages were often reinforced with praise and approval, which made us feel like we were doing the right thing. But as we grew older, these behaviors didn't just stay as nice gestures. They became expectations. They became the lens through which we judge our worth. If I'm always available, always helping, always saying yes, I'm a good person. But here's what that belief misses. You can't give your best when you're giving from an empty place. The more you say yes out of guilt, the more you drain yourself. And when you're drained, you can't show up in the way you want to. You can't bring your full self to the table. You can't give from a place of abundance. You're giving from a place of depletion. And that's when resentment starts to creep in. It's when you start to feel overwhelmed, burned out, and disconnected from your own values. And it's when you begin to wonder, why do I feel like I'm losing myself? I've seen this in so many of my conversations with people who have a hard time saying no. They're carrying this heavy weight of guilt, and the more they carry, the more they lose touch with their own needs and desires. They become so consumed with meeting everyone else's expectations that they forget to ask themselves, what do I need? What is the truth for me in this moment? But here's the powerful realization I've had. Guilt is not your truth. It's just a signal that you've been conditioned to think that your value is measured by how much you can give to others. So when that guilt hits, instead of letting it control you, ask yourself, is this my truth? Or is this a belief that I've been conditioned to believe for years? I can't tell you how many times I've had to stop myself in the middle of a yes and ask that very question. And every time I realize that the guilt isn't about the person I'm saying no to. It's about the fear of disappointing them, and underneath that, the fear of disappointing myself. Well, here's the beauty of it. When you can recognize that guilt for what it is, conditioning, you can start to let it go. You can start to practice self-compassion and acknowledge that saying no is not a betrayal. It's an act of respect, not just for the other person, but for yourself. Saying no means you're showing up for your values, your needs, and your well-being. And when we start to challenge the conditioning that makes us feel guilty for setting boundaries, we begin to reclaim our own truth. We realize that our worth doesn't depend on how much we can give. It's already there deep inside us, waiting to be acknowledged and respected. That's the kind of love for yourself and for others that's sustainable, it's real, it's grounded in the truth that you are enough, just as you are. So the next time guilt creeps in, take a deep breath and remind yourself, this guilt isn't the truth, it's just conditioning, and you're strong enough to let it go. Clarity is kindness. I've said it before and I'll say it again, clarity is kindness. But it wasn't always so clear to me For most of my life, I thought that being kind meant being vague, not wanting to hurt anyone's feelings, not wanting to disappoint, not wanting to rock the boat. So I would say yes, even when I didn't want to. I would agree to things that didn't align with my values or my needs, all because I didn't want to create discomfort or conflict. I thought that was kindness. I thought that was what it meant to be a good person. But here's what I've learned. That's not kindness. That's people pleasing. And it's exhausting. It's also dishonest to others and to yourself. The truth is, when you're not clear with your boundaries and your needs, you're doing everyone a disservice. You're not being kind to the person you're agreeing to help, and you're not being kind to yourself. Because ultimately, the person who suffers the most when we don't have clarity is us. Clarity isn't about being harsh or cold, it's about being honest. And here's the thing. Honesty is always the most respectful approach. It's not just about telling people what they want to hear or doing what they expect of you. It's about telling the truth even when it's hard. Because when we don't, we create confusion, we create frustration, we leave people wondering where they stand with us. And that's not kindness, that's avoidance. I remember a time when I was asked to help with a project at work. The request came from a colleague I deeply respected, and I really wanted to help. But I was already stretched thin with other commitments, and I knew if I said yes, I'd be overcommitting myself. I told myself I'd figure it out, that I could make it work. But deep down, I knew I couldn't. And here's where I went wrong. Instead of being clear and honest from the start, I dodged the issue. I offered vague assurances, saying things like, I'll see what I can do and let me check my schedule, hoping that the request would just go away. But the problem with vagueness is that it doesn't provide anyone with a clear understanding of what's happening. It doesn't give the other person the clarity they need to make decisions, and it doesn't give me the clarity I need to honor my own boundaries. Instead of creating connection, vagueness creates frustration. And when I finally did have to say no, it wasn't easy. It felt like I had let everyone down. But the truth was, by not being clear from the beginning, I had made the situation harder for both of us. So let me be clear, when you're unclear, you're actually being unkind. And here's why. Uncertainty creates anxiety, and anxiety leads to resentment. If you say yes when you mean no, the person you're saying yes to might think they're getting what they need, but underneath the surface, there's this quiet resentment growing in you, and that resentment isn't something you can hide forever. It starts to eat away at the relationship, and eventually it creates distance. Not because you don't care, but because you're no longer being honest. And the same is true for the other person. When you're vague, they don't know where they stand. They're left wondering, do they really want to help? Or are they just saying yes because they feel obligated? Am I asking too much? And that uncertainty is uncomfortable. It creates a disconnect that honesty would have prevented. Clarity is a gift to both people involved. It's a way of saying, I respect you enough to be honest, and I respect myself enough to be clear about what I can and can't do. It's not about being rigid. It's about being authentic. It's about saying, here's what I can offer, and here's what I can't. And when you do that, you give the other person the opportunity to respond from a place of honesty too. It opens the door for a real, authentic conversation where both people can make choices that align with their needs. I know this can feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've spent years trying to avoid conflict or disappointment. But I promise you, the discomfort of honesty is far less painful than the long-term frustration of avoiding it. Clarity doesn't just save you energy and emotional bandwidth. It builds stronger, more meaningful relationships. It creates trust. It creates respect. It creates connection. So the next time you're faced with a request and you feel that hesitation, take a moment, breathe, get clear on what you can and can't offer, and then speak from that place. You'll be amazed at how much better you feel and how much more respect you'll earn from the people around you, because in the end, clarity really is kindness. Saying no is a pathway to living with integrity. Integrity, it's a word we hear often, but I think sometimes we forget what it truly means, especially when it comes to our own lives. Integrity isn't just about doing the right thing when no one is looking. It's about being true to who you are, even when it's hard. It's about aligning your actions with your values, not your fears or your insecurities. And when you say yes to things you don't truly want or can't fully commit to, you're not living with integrity. You're living out of fear, out of obligation. And that's when you start to lose touch with the person you really are. When I first started to learn the power of saying no, I realized that it wasn't just about rejecting requests from others. It was about honoring my own values, my own needs, and my own sense of self. Saying no is not about being selfish. It's about making sure that your actions align with the truth of who you are. It's about setting a boundary that protects your time, energy, and emotional space so you can show up as your best self, both for you and for others. But living with integrity, especially in a world that often values productivity and people-pleasing, can be really difficult. We live in a culture that tells us we need to be everything to everyone, to give, give, give until there's nothing left. And if you're like me, you've probably found yourself in situations where you've said yes to things you didn't want to do just to avoid feeling guilty or disappointing someone. You might have thought, if I say no, I'm not being a good person. But here's the truth. If you're not being true to yourself, you're not being the best version of yourself for anyone, saying no is an act of courage. It's a way of saying to the world, I am enough just as I am. I am worthy of taking up space, of protecting my time, of honoring my needs. And when you make that choice, you create a life that is more aligned with your values, your priorities, and your authentic self. It's a pathway to living with integrity because you're no longer saying yes out of obligation or fear, to saying yes to what matters most and no to the things that would pull you away from that. For me, this realization was transformative. There was a time when I would say yes to every request, every opportunity, every favor because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. I didn't want to be seen as selfish or unkind. But in doing so, I lost myself. I became resentful and disconnected, not just from others, but from my own sense of purpose and my own well-being. When I finally started to say no, not out of guilt, but out of respect for my own values, I felt a sense of relief that I had never known before. I could breathe. I could show up in my life with intention, with focus, and with a sense of integrity. And here's the powerful part. When you start to live with integrity, you start to attract the people and experiences that align with your values too. You create space for relationships that are built on honesty, respect, and mutual care. People who love and respect you will understand that your boundaries are there to protect not just your well-being, but the relationship itself. They'll appreciate your honesty, they'll appreciate your courage, and when you're living with integrity, you'll find that those who truly matter will respect your no as much as they respect your yes. Now, I won't lie, it's not always easy. Saying no can feel uncomfortable, especially when you're afraid of disappointing others or when you're used to being the person everyone relies on. But the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. And the more you do it, the more you realize that your life is a reflection of the choices you make. When you choose integrity over obligation, you create a life that is aligned with your authentic self. And that's where true fulfillment lies. Living with integrity doesn't mean you'll never say yes again. It doesn't mean you'll never help someone in need or take on a responsibility that's important to you. But it does mean that when you say yes, it's because you genuinely want to, not because you feel you have to. It means that your decisions are rooted in a place of authenticity, not guilt or fear. And that, my friends, is a life worth living. As we come to the end of this conversation, I want to leave you with this. Saying no is not a weakness. It's not a sign of selfishness or rejection. It's a powerful act of self-respect, self-compassion, and integrity. It's an opportunity to take control of your life, to prioritize your well-being, and to honor your own boundaries. When you say no, you're saying yes to what matters most, to your time, your energy, your relationships, and ultimately, your peace of mind. The truth is, every time you say no to something that doesn't align with your truth, you're creating space for the things that really matter. You're protecting your capacity to show up as the best version of yourself for the people who truly matter. And when you live from that place, you not only protect your own integrity, but you create relationships and experiences that are authentic, meaningful, and life-giving. So as you step forward from here, I encourage you to practice saying no with confidence and compassion. Allow yourself the freedom to prioritize what's important and let go of the guilt and fear that has held you back. Know that it's okay to choose yourself and that doing so is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself and for those around you.